Hi, everyone. Welcome back to WIE RISE TOGETHER. I'm Kelly, your host for today, and we are continuing our Tech Unplugged series and spotlighting a phenomenal woman shaping cybersecurity. Our guest for today is Anastasija, and she started off her career as a software engineer, pivoted into research, and is now an associate professor in cybersecurity at the University of Applied Sciences and Arts of Western Switzerland. Her work is pushing the boundaries of how we understand security in a world that is more connected and more vulnerable than ever. She was also named among IEEE Computing's top 30 early career professionals for 2024, which is such an incredible achievement. Please join me in welcoming Anastasija. Welcome, Anastasija. It's so great to chat with a fellow woman in cybersecurity.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to be here.
Amazing. So let's start off with getting to know more about you. Can you maybe introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do in cybersecurity research?
Of course, with pleasure. So, as you have already mentioned, I am an associate professor of cybersecurity at the University of Applied Sciences and Arts of Western Switzerland, based in Geneva. And my research and teaching is focusing on applied cybersecurity and privacy, particularly in areas like IoT security, automotive security, also automated risk assessment, and more increasingly, the human factors behind how we design and build those secure systems. I'm deeply interested in that intersection where technology meets human behavior, where trust, privacy, and ethics collide with innovation. And before the academia, I worked for many years in the industry as a software engineer, as a project manager, and later as a research and development specialist. And that time shaped me profoundly. It taught me to see cybersecurity not just as a checklist, but as a living, evolving process that must adapt to people and society. And since we are sharing fun facts, I have one for you. In my childhood, I actually wanted to become a professional ballerina, and I trained for many years in a professional choreography ballet school. So, in a way, that sense of discipline and the rhythm and creative expression has stayed with me and shaped how I approach research today.
Wow, that is amazing. I never just thought of the intersection between those skills you learn, like, through the ballet classes that you've taken and then, security, but that's really amazing. Thanks for sharing, Anastasia. And in cybersecurity, right, as you mentioned, there are different sort of specializations. You mentioned risk assessment, you mentioned privacy. There are also different entry points, right? And my personal journey into cybersecurity was, I would say, pretty straightforward because I started right after college, right, as a consultant. I worked with different clients performing vulnerability assessments on their networks, on their systems to identify weaknesses right before it reached their customers. However, I understand that there are a lot of professionals in cybersecurity that do not follow that conventional path. And I really love that, you started in software engineering and then transitioned into research. You also took um, a quick a quick run at project management as well. So I'm curious, right, to find out what drew you into security research and what were some of those moments that helped you make that leap, right, from being a SWE to a researcher?
Well, my path into cybersecurity research, true, was not that conventional, but it was always intentional, in my opinion. When I began my Bachelor of Science in Internet Technologies back in Ireland, I didn't know yet where exactly I wanted to specialize. I just knew that I wanted to work with technology. And after graduating, I decided to take a year off to work in the industry, and that was a turning point because I worked as a software engineer, then as a project manager, and that experience showed me where my passion really lay. I realized that what fascinated me wasn't just building and developing the systems. It was this understanding on how to make them secure. And cybersecurity was a natural fit for my personality as well, I think, because it's analytical, curious. I'm also a bit skeptical. But unlike many who go into operational or defensive cybersecurity, I was more drawn to developing new security solutions, building tools, building frameworks and methods that could improve how we think about security and trust in complex systems. And that's why, after my industrial experience, I returned to academia to pursue my Master of Science in Cryptology and Security in Grenoble in France, and later also PhD in Informatics at the University of Geneva. I have to admit that in my time, I considered that my experience at INRIA, which is a large research organization in France, and working on privacy enhancing technologies left a deep mark on me. I discovered this beauty of scientific freedom, of possibility of asking why, what if, and this satisfaction of contributing knowledge back to society, of doing something useful and meaningful for a general public. So for me, going into academia wasn't a switch away from the industry. It was rather an evolution of the same mission: how to build security that is purposeful, ethical, and most importantly, human-centered.
Well, that is great. And, one thing I really admire about researchers is that you're often looking around the corners, right? And you mentioned the scientific freedom. So you're pretty much are able to spot the issues, right? Spot the security issues before they blow up into mainstream problems, before they blow up into, let's say, like a zero-day attack or like a vulnerability being on the National Vulnerability Database, right? So from where you sit, right, what are some of the hot areas showing up in your research right now? And are there like particular threats or trends, maybe like, in agentic AI security or supply chain or even ransomware, that we have an opportunity, right, to pay more close attention to?
Yeah, right now, I'm particularly excited about the world of automated driving and connected mobility. In my opinion, it's one of the most fascinating frontiers in cybersecurity today. Automated driving is a truly dream technology, the kind of innovation that some time ago we just imagined. But it's also a domain full of complex and very urgent questions. How do we secure AI-driven decision making? How do we perform continuous risk assessment in constantly changing environment? And how do we prevent even an erosion of the privacy when vehicles are becoming mobile data centers capable of collecting all the data inside them, around them? Yes, and with this, I believe we are in this critical juncture, a moment when the systems we design today will shape society for decades to come. And we still have this opportunity to do it right, to embed security and privacy by design, to make transparency and accountability part of the architecture rather than the afterthought. That's how we very frequently approach it in classical operational cybersecurity. And this is where my research is focusing today, developing automated risk assessment frameworks that can adapt in real time and help both machines and humans to make those trustworthy decisions. Because the future of security isn't just about stronger or fancier algorithms. It's all about smarter and more ethical design.
That's very interesting. I really like the fact that you are working very close with developing and moving and pushing forward privacy enhancing technologies, as well as automating that risk assessment processes. Because I know now, like with we're in the AI boom, right? And there are a lot of frameworks, guidelines that are being shared across the industry to like private sector, public sector. And I can imagine, right? It seems more like a task load and a burden on the security team and the privacy teams to pretty much work on ensuring that AI is used in the safest and most ethical way possible. So we have, the EU AI Act, the NIST AI risk management framework, and others, right, that we need to sort of continue to keep ahead of. So I think it's great that you are bringing in that solutioning where we can operationalize those risk assessment processes. So that is amazing. And as a mentor, like I get asked all the time by my mentees about the different entry points and the different specializations in cybersecurity. And I typically, tell them to start off with building up foundational skills like, understanding networking, right? Understanding how systems of systems work and, potentially getting hands-on experience with the tools, scanning tools, right, that can help spot those weaknesses in the systems. I would also typically suggest, getting entry level certifications like cybersecurity or excuse me, Security Plus and certified in cybersecurity by the ISC2, and pretty much start off from where they can really add value, right, through their transferable skills. So for someone listening and who would like to be a researcher like you, or maybe even break into their first cybersecurity role, would you like to share, any additional tips on how they can potentially put their best foot forward?
Absolutely. And maybe to your surprise, to the surprise of the listeners, my biggest piece of advice would not be technical at all, but rather something like follow your heart and your curiosity. Cybersecurity is such a broad field. There is room for everyone. It's not just about coding, hacking, and pen testing. It's also about psychology, the communication, the policies, the design, the engineering. It's one of the most interdisciplinary domains in the modern science, in my view. Find what excites you, whether it's privacy law, human computer interaction, or even embedded systems, and go deep into it. Let passion drive your learning. Also, don't be afraid to reach out, ask questions, and collaborate. Some of my most rewarding research collaborations started from a random conference chat or just a curious email exchange. And finally, maybe I can also add to always keep your ethical compass steady. Technology is powerful, but it's only meaningful when guided by integrity. If something feels ethically wrong, don't rationalize it away. Cybersecurity isn't just about protecting the systems or systems of the systems. It's upmost and about protecting people.
Great. And I second that as well. You mentioned, taking charge of curiosity, like, cybersecurity can expand into psychology. And I don't think it's something people think of very often when they hear cybersecurity. Like you said, like they always think about, a hacker behind the computer trying to break into systems. But, cybersecurity can also venture into creativity. This is where we need diversity, right? This is where we need representation from different groups. So curiosity, psychology, which is not necessarily tied to cybersecurity, right? Because when you think of cybersecurity, you think of a hacker behind a computer trying to break into systems. But there's also creativity, right? Creativity on how we solution ideas. And this is where diversity plays a huge part in the world of cybersecurity. And we both work in cyber, right? We know that there's still a lot of space where women can definitely sort of share their voices and shape the solutions, the industry frameworks, the guidelines, be part of those important conversations. And I believe as of 2022, right, there was a report made by ISC2 that women make up about 25%, right, of the cybersecurity workforce. And I know this is like an underrepresentation that has been, vocalized time and time. But, for me, I would like to know from you, Anastasija, right? Has there been anyone in your life, in your walk in cybersecurity, could be like a mentor, coworker, or manager that has really lifted you up? Maybe someone that has reminded you that you are definitely needed in this evolving field, right? Despite the underrepresentation.
If I'm honest, I cannot point to a single mentor who lifted me up throughout my career. But I can say that I've had a team or a circle of support that made everything possible. Well, first and foremost, it's my husband. He's been my unwavering anchor, whether it was supporting me during my PhD days, or sharing family responsibilities, or encouraging me to pursue leadership roles. He's been there in every way. But beyond that, there's also my team, my colleagues, my friends, all those people who believe in collective success rather than individual competition. For me, being lifted up is never about one person. It's about this shared energy and trust. I deeply believe in the power of a team, in how much more we can achieve when we collaborate, when we encourage, and when we celebrate each other. That's what truly lifts me up.
Great. Yeah, definitely. Teamwork makes dream work. So that's
Mhm.
amazing to hear that it's not just one person, right, that has sort of advocated for you and mentored you. It's been a group of people, both in your personal and in your professional walks. So that's amazing. All right. And I can imagine, right, trying to balance work and life can be a bit daunting, right? Working in cybersecurity, it's an intense field, right? It's a highly demanding field. And for me, I found that taking a prayer walk or even listening to, or taking a quick music break, listening to my favorite artist helps me recenter, before diving back into the chaos. So I'm curious, Anastasia, what do you do? How do you make those heavy days and sort of get back to, a good headspace? How do you make those heavy days more bearable, more tolerable, that you're able to sort of produce more value, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, rest and recovery are just non-negotiable. Cybersecurity and research in general can be very mentally intense. It's fast-paced. It's always problem-driven. Often things are at high stake, and my main ways to recharge are as simple as yoga, doing some yoga at least once a week, spending quality time with my kids, and being outdoors. I think that nature has a way of reminding us what truly matters. And honestly, some of my best research ideas come to me while walking in the forest, hugging trees with my children. And as a side note, I also enjoy a lot the self development trainings that aren't directly related to my field. Whether it's some kind of mindfulness, leadership, or creative thinking workshop, exploring other perspectives keeps me balanced and helps me grow beyond my professional identity.
Great. And I know, you're not just researching problems within like OT or automated, machines. And I know you mentioned just now, right? You get some research ideas through just taking time off work and just being around nature, right? So I kind of want to tap into, those ideas a little bit. So would you mind sharing, what you're working on right now, like a project, one of those research ideas that is, coming into fruition, just something that you're working on right now that, that really excites you and why it matters to you personally?
Of course, researchers always have more ideas than the hours in the day, but maybe I can tell you a little bit about three projects that are very close to my heart right now. So the first one is something that I call this magic cybersecurity decision support system. It's a tool to help decision makers, not just engineers or professional users, to understand the social, technical, and economic dimensions of cybersecurity. We talk so much about awareness, on cybersecurity in general, yet organizations still struggle to make informed strategic security decisions. And the purpose of this research is to actually to try to bridge that gap. Then the second is cybersecurity education for kids. Children grow up surrounded by technology, but no one really teaches them about digital safety or online privacy in an engaging and age appropriate way. And I'd love to create more of those educational resources that can make cybersecurity and digital privacy more intuitive and empowering for those for the next generation, basically. And the third one, it's more tangible project. It's automated risk assessment for highly automated vehicles. This is an active research area for my whole team, and we are currently working on a book that brings together the industry practitioners and academics to capture this complexity of automotive cybersecurity in one comprehensive volume. As you can see, all three reflect the same mission: to make cybersecurity not just more advanced, but more human. So rooted in ethics, understanding, and empowerment.
Wow, that's so impressive. I really cannot wait for that book to be released. I would definitely be one of the first to get a copy. So, yeah, in Women in Engineering, in our community, we emphasize on giving back and we emphasize on strengthening the community because we see the immediate value, from doing that. And of when you think ahead to the next couple of years or the next decade or so, what kind of legacy do you hope to build in security, knowing that you mentioned, right, educating, creating more awareness to the younger generation? Are there any other sort of legacies you'd like to um, build within cybersecurity that you'd like to share today?
Yes. For me, the legacy isn't about technology or titles. It's all about the mindset. Being human, being real, leading with passion and empathy. And I want to help to build an environment where people can thrive regardless of their background, where non-traditional pathways into cybersecurity and academia are not just accepted, but in fact encouraged. I believe mentorship should be human and meaningful, rooted in genuine care, guidance, inspiration. It shouldn't be about the hierarchy or formality. It should be only about helping others find their own voice and confidence. And my greatest joy is seeing my students or mentees grow, achieve their goals, and carry forward those same values of curiosity, kindness, and integrity in their own journeys. If years from now I can look back and see a community of those researchers who value empathy as much as excellence, that for me will be the true legacy.
And as we're wrapping up here to our last question, it's always one that I like to close with. If you could leave our listeners with one message, what would it be?
That's a tough one, but I came prepared. It's not because you come from a small place that you can't dream big. Be courageous, think boldly, ask the hard questions, even if these questions make people uncomfortable. Your path might not be straightforward, but that's what makes it uniquely yours. Stay curious, stay kind, and never let anyone convince that your perspective does not matter. Because in cybersecurity, as in life, it's the diverse voices, the passionate dreamers, and the bold thinkers who shape the future.
Anastasia, thank you so much for opening up and sharing your journey with such honesty and grace. It's really stories like yours that remind us why the space matters, to celebrate each other, to inspire growth, and to remind every listener that, they belong here too. They belong in cybersecurity, they belong in STEM. And to our listeners, keep rising, keep thriving, and keep showing up, even on the hard days. if this episode moved you, share it forward. You never know who might need that encouragement. Until next time, stay curious, stay secure, and keep rising together.